Welcome to Patriot TV. I'm your host, Janet Palombi. I invite you to join me as we discuss news and current events, local and worldwide, from a faith-based perspective. Now, today, Pastor Ken Peters was supposed to join me, but he got called to Nashville to work with Sean Foyt. If you don't know who Sean Foyt is, you need to know who he is. He's a fellow patriot, singer, songwriter, former worship leader at Bethel Church, founder of the Let Us Worship movement, which was a series of worship events that went against public health orders during the plandemic. He's a missionary, activist, author, speaker, talented guy. The documentary movie Super Spreader chronicles Sean Foyt's life-changing Let Us Worship movement. So our prayers go out to Pastor Ken and Sean today as they work together to further the kingdom in Nashville. Now, this means that I will be flying solo today on our very first official Patriot TV podcast show. I have a packed, full of information show for you today. But before I begin, I want to answer a question. People keep asking me why I felt called to start Patriot TV. Well, I wanted to start Patriot TV because I wanted to do for others what others have done for me for the last few years. When the crazy pandemic hit, life got crazy and I knew something was going on, and I started searching for information. Well, a lot of people did the research and helped me with that information. So I know that the world is just full of so many things today and we all go on overload. But I'm here to do a lot of that research and provide that information to you so that you can be well informed and get actively involved in the battle for this nation. So let's get started. Today's show is going to be a little bit dark. My show is all about the war on our children today. And it's no secret that Satan wants our kids. And unfortunately, it's a little dark and a little graphic today because there's really no way to sugarcoat some of the things that are happening to our children today. Some of you might remember this creepy song that came out not too long ago that we're going to play for you now that kind of sums up what's going on with this war on our kids.
And we'll care about fairness and justice for others. Your children will work to convert all their sisters and brothers.
You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep them from disco, warn about San Francisco, make him wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children. We'll make them tolerant and fair.
Creepy, but it's kind of frightening that this is what's going on. They don't even cover it up anymore. They don't hide it. They want our kids. It's pretty obvious. Well, the first major war that we've been talking a lot about on our kids is abortion. Now, the Bible is very clear that God is the creator of life and all life is precious, born and unborn. Jeremiah 1:5 says that God knew him as fully human before his birth. Psalm 139:13, David wrote, "You created my inmost being and knit me together in my mother's womb. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." Now, Pastor Ken and Patriot Church have been really on the front lines of fighting this battle against abortion rights in Tennessee. What we passed in Tennessee not too long ago, that abortion is now illegal in this state. Well, we talked last week about several of even the Republicans that voted with us that have decided that they want to bring abortion back to the state of Tennessee. We've had some major headway with this and we're winning some of the battles, but last week we told you that HB 883 has still not been decided. That goes back to the Senate floor on March 14th, and then it goes to the House on March 21st. Now, the calls that you've all been making have made a huge difference, but we got to do more. I don't have this, unfortunately, on the screen, but there is something called Tennessee Stands. I'm going to put that up there just for you to see. It's Tennessee Stands. Gary Humble started this a few years ago when the pandemic hit. And you can go on this Tennessee Stands site, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but there are red action blocks on here. And you can go on this and you can get actively involved. He puts a weekly email out, and you can go on and click these red buttons, and they're all about the legislative action items that hit every single week. And this will go right out to the legislators that need to hear your opinions on these bills. So they prefer that you call and give your own opinion, but I know that time constraints come with with all of us. So this is a really good way to go onto Tennessee Stand site, and you can just click those buttons. I really encourage you to get politically active on all of these issues. Let's move on to another war on our kids: drag shows for kids and book readings in libraries. The mainstream media is constantly trying to normalize this by claiming that these are fun, family-friendly events. You know, you go to the library, they read you Green Eggs and Ham and perform cute little shows for the kids. But these aren't cute little shows for the kids, okay? First of all, how do kids even know what a drag queen is? I didn't know what a drag queen was when I was growing up. My kids didn't know. Somebody had to tell them what a drag queen was. And who's taking them to these events? The parents are taking them to these events, and the parents are telling them what a drag queen is. And they're doing this in the name of tolerance. Now, my husband always says to me, tolerance is my trigger word. Tolerance is a word that really bothers me, and I'm going to do a whole show on the word tolerance because I could easily talk about that word for an hour. But I can't get stuck on that word today, but I'm going to tell you right now, they're really reading to these kids LGBTQ, whatever the letters are. They're reading them propaganda, and they are performing burlesque sexual perversion in front of our children. I believe this is really for the drag queens. The drag queens want to feel like what they're doing is normal, and they want to feel human, alive, and accepted. And the purpose of it is to indoctrinate our children from as young an age as they can possibly get them in front of this. Now, PragerU, Aldo Bottazzoni he visited the LA Zoo for a drag show at the LA Zoo. And we're going to play a little bit of that for you today.
Last night, I attended Pride Night at the LA Zoo, which included an all-ages drag show. This event sold tickets not only to children, but to infants under the age of 2 years old, and featured performers who show themselves online in bondage, stripping, in kink, smoking drugs, and holding bloody, decapitated heads. This is who the LA Zoo was inviting children and infants to see.
Is everybody drinking?
Yeah!
Yes, we're drinking. If you're not, you have a moment to go to the bar and grab a cocktail from our fabulous bartender.
So Carolina, why did you bring your daughter to this performance tonight?
I just thought that it would be really fun to come with family. Like, I have family that's in the, LGBTQIA community.
We have lots of nieces and nephews and little cousins, and even going to pride parades or drag shows or events like this that are family friendly, but yet still let everyone be inclusive and come as you are and be who you are. We love that.
With a lot of the drag shows happening around the country, there's a lot of parents out there that say that drag is not appropriate in front of kids, especially with some of the more sexually charged aspects of it. What do you say to those parents?
I mean, nothing was sexually charged about tonight. We were all here having a good time, enjoying ourselves. And I actually do participate in Drag Queen Story Hour. I read to kids at least 3 times, once every 3 months for Drag Queen Story Hour at the Pasadena, it's the Romans bookstore, yeah. And honestly, it's great, it's amazing. Like, everyone's there. We learn about people being themselves, shining your light for who you are, and not judging other people for anything except what they bring to the table.
We are having technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Rule number 2 is tipping. If you have $1 and you like what you see, give a bitch $1. We take all forms of payment.
Excuse me? Earlier in the night, you said that there was nothing sexually charged about this event.
This is not a sexual charge.
Do you stand by that?
Please don't film me right now. That's not the nature of this event.
And what's this video for?
This video is to show drag shows, to show what you guys are doing here, to show what the performers were all about. What was the show tonight about?
It was our Pride Night.
Yeah. So earlier, the director of equity here at the zoo said that there was nothing sexual about this performance. Do you stand by that, and do you agree with that stance?
It's a family-friendly event.
Did you see anything sexually charged with this performance?
I was watching you all film.
Oh, so you didn't see any of it?
I was watching you all film.
Do you think that maybe some of the performers fondling themselves and grabbing their genitals, or maybe the MC talking about testicles was sexually charged? Because you weren't watching it.
Can I get your email information, please?
You don't want to answer that question?
Can I get your email information?
They don't want to answer the questions, and I think that says a lot about what they think about this. Why is me asking a question about the event more offensive than the event itself? The performers claim that drag is nothing more than celebrating pride and being who you are. But what exactly did you see them celebrating here? What exactly are they proud of? We as a society have deemed certain things inappropriate for children to consume. Alcohol, porn, even R-rated movies. And it's not bigoted and it's not homophobic to want to add adult men twerking in scantily clad women's clothing to that list. The only reason we haven't, and get so much pushback when we try, is because they host these events under the banner of gay pride, which they use as a shield to protect themselves from accountability. Don't get it wrong. This isn't about gay rights. This isn't about pride. This is about predatory adults stroking their ego to sexualize children. And even they know it's wrong. It's why they always get angry at me for posting these videos, or why the communications director in my video walked away when I asked him questions. They know it's wrong, they know they should be ashamed, and we can't keep letting them do this to our kids. How a society treats their most vulnerable is a measure of their humanity, and it's shows like these why PragerU has started a pledge and dedicated January to protecting children's innocence. You can help us in this fight by signing the pledge with us. Make sure you share this video and go to PragerU.com to take the pledge to hold these people in our communities accountable and not allow them to destroy our children's innocence. This is Aldo for PragerU. I'll see you in the next one.
So I have to apologize for some of the graphic content in the show today, but this is the kind of things that our children and our grandchildren are seeing at our local zoos, which I find absolutely fascinating. And, you know, they've started drag queen story hours in many of our libraries. Well, Kirk Cameron, many of you know who Kirk Cameron is, and he has something called Brave Books now, and he has started a tour throughout the country going into libraries to kind of counterculture what's been going on and do his library tour to read his Christian faith-based books. Well, he was scheduled to go to a library in Hendersonville, Tennessee, which, don't forget, Tennessee has banned abortion and a lot of other good things, which we're going to talk about further in the show, some of our wins here in Tennessee. Well, let me read to you a little bit of what happened to Kirk Cameron. Kirk Cameron reacted to the Daily Wire's report about how he and swim champion Riley Gaines and Duck Dynasty alum Missy Robertson were harassed by the library staff at his faith-based story hour in Tennessee on February 25th. The actor spoke to the Daily Wire about what happened at the Hendersonville Public Library and admitted that he wasn't sure how they were going to be greeted after dealing with some pushback by the director, Alan Morales. Initially, Morales approved the faith-based story hour event for Cameron to read his book, As You Grow, by publisher Brave Books. But when he learned who Cameron was and that he would be joined by Robertson and Gaines, he wanted to cancel as previously reported. We didn't know what was going to happen, Cameron shared. All we knew was that we had a reservation, we had rented the room and got a receipt, and then they tried to push us off and kind of hide us in a little church down the street. We decided that I'm not going to ghost hundreds of people at a public library who think I'm going to be there. I told them I would be there, so I'm coming, and we will just see what happens. Now, the TV star wanted to reiterate that the story here is about how people are coming out of the woodwork to support good values. It's not about this disgruntled library director. The actor shared before taking time to clarify what had been reported about him, and Morales exchanging some loud words before the event. Then, when we were filming some things in the library, he added, noting that this is during the time that the clanging of the books, the stomping, and the music took place. And that's when I heard Mr. Morales say, "No, we're not going to turn off the music. We've got stuff to do. And besides, you guys aren't even supposed to be here." Cameron said, he told the director, "Actually, sir, that's not true. We are supposed to be here. This is a public library, and we've rented the space." And he, Mr. Morales, walked away. He called the staff's treatment of him and the others disappointing, but noted that Morales and his staff's attempt to turn them away instead created a revival. So Kirk Cameron is pushing through, and he is counterculturing what's going on in these libraries. My question is, why all of a sudden has this become such a huge thing? Well, Matt Walsh posted this on his show a few weeks ago. It's called Drag Queen Story Hours, Radical Origins and Subversive Sexualization of Our Kids. Let me read you this. Enterprising queer theorists used the commercialization of drag and the goodwill associated with the gay and lesbian rights movement as a means of transforming drag performances into family-friendly events that could transmit a simplified version of queer theory to children. The key figure in this transition was a genderqueer college professor and drag queen named Harris Kornstein, stage name Lil Miss Hot Mess, who hosted some of the original readings in public libraries and sits on the board of Drag Queen Story Hour, the nonprofit organization founded by Michelle T. in 2015 to promote children's drag performances. Kornstein also co-wrote the manifesto for the movement Drag Pedagogy, the playful practice of queer imagination in early childhood, with Harper Keenan. They propose drag pedagogy as a new teaching designed to stimulate the queer imagination, teaching kids how to live queerly. Though Drag Queen Story Hour events are often billed as family-friendly, Kornstein and Keenan explain that this is a form of code. Here, Drag Queen Story Hour is family-friendly in the sense of family as an old-school queer code to identify and connect with other queers on the street. That is, the goal is not to reinforce the biological family, but to facilitate the child's transition into the ideological family. Now, does that sound like family-friendly? It's not. They are trying to indoctrinate our children, and they're telling us that. I'm going to play another clip from Marcus Rogers, which is, again, a little bit dark, a little bit frustrating. But let's see how young they're trying to indoctrinate your children.
So this clip you're about to see is absolutely disgusting, but people need to see the ugly reality of what is going on. Now, when you look at this clip, notice you don't see very many fathers in none of these clips. There's one guy in the back, maybe his wife made him come, forced him to come, bullied him to come. Maybe he came on his own, I don't know. But if you notice, every time they've had these photo shoots with Disney, the boy princess and things like that, you never see any masculine fathers around. There's a bunch of women with their kids or with their boys. All right. Number two, why do you have to do this in front of kids? If you want to do this, go do it in your bars, in your clubs, with your adults who, swing that way. But why do it in front of the kids? Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. There's a spirit behind this trying to indoctrinate our children. The Bible says, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. So the devil realizes this, and he's trying to come for the children. There's no other way but to put it. Let this mind be in you, the mind of Christ, right? The mind of God's will, God's truth, God's way. They're trying to come against that. And if parents continue to be complacent about what they're putting in the cartoons and the movies and the Disney shows and the entertainment, what happens slowly but surely over time, and it's already happening, this becomes the normal to the children. And then when they become adults, that is their normal. So anybody who questions it, right, you're looked at as a bad person, right? Because, you know, when we were growing up, it wasn't normal. We knew that the natural order of things is a man with a woman. And if somebody was doing whatever they was doing, we knew there was something off with that. Now, we didn't hate them or anything like that. You know, oh, we hate you because you're doing X, Y, and Z. We just knew that's not the natural way, because the natural way you can reproduce, right? So when you go that direction, you swing that way, you cannot reproduce. It's a man with a woman. That's the laws of nature. That's the biblical view. And we don't have to apologize for standing on that view. We don't have to apologize for saying, hey, I want my kids to have the biblical view and the laws of nature.
So I heard a little clip about The View. I don't watch The View. I don't even know. I know there's Whoopi Goldberg is really the only person I know that's on it. But I did hear her say last week on The View that if Jesus had something to say about this, he would have been the grand marshal of the gay rights parade. Well, or the gay pride parade. Well, first of all, that's absolutely not true. Jesus doesn't support or condone any form of pride. Also, any sexual act outside of marriage between a man and a woman, Jesus calls sin. So, you know, you've got your secular TV shows like The View that they want us to keep religion out of everything, but they have no problem when it fits their bill to bring religion into their shows. And they're the ones that brought up Jesus, and they're completely wrong about Jesus being part of a gay pride or being the grand marshal. We have a couple pictures of our pastor Ken. Ken Peters and Patriot Church have been actively involved in helping to stop these gay pride events that they've been doing in front of children. It says actually that they gave us credit for stopping 7 drag shows. Ken says, I didn't think we were that successful, and we certainly weren't the only ones who fought these, but thank you, NBC. Ken went to Nashville last week and was on NBC, and they've been giving him full credit for doing this. Now, we did go down to the Tennessee Theater at Christmas time when our Tennessee Theater was doing a gay burlesque perverted show for the children. The children were invited to this event, and we did go down there and protest, and you know, it got a little bit tense at times, but yes, our church and our pastor are really trying to lead the battle against what they're doing to our children. Let's talk about another issue, the mutilation and regenderization of our children. Let's see what Matt Walsh has to say on the war on our children.
These vultures have lined up to feast on and profit from the confusion of innocent kids. Confusion that these same vultures have intentionally fostered in the minds of our youth. They create the identity crisis and then they monetize it. These kids are put on so-called puberty blockers to chemically castrate them, drugs that, by the way, have been given to sex offenders to chemically castrate them. And before the age of 18, many kids will undergo surgeries such as double mastectomies. One of the most basic truths is that children who are confused about their identity need guidance and love and clarity. They don't need hormone injections and scalpels. Our kids cannot protect themselves. We need to do it. That's our job as adults. And everybody who's remained silent on this issue is culpable in what is happening to our kids. Many members of the media who have not demonstrated the slightest bit of skepticism, as the medical establishment has just told us over the years that it's life-saving care to castrate a child. The majority of the media that just goes along with that doesn't ask one skeptical question.
Children who can barely think for themselves on a child's level are being mutilated and told that they need to change their genders. This next clip just broke my heart because this is a woman that became a man. And let's hear the actual truth behind the mutilation of people and the gender re-identity that they're doing to people.
First time in history, a marginalized group has a huge dollar sign on the top of their head. We have 5 children's hospitals in the United States promoting that.
What?
That's a phalloplasty. That's a bottom surgery. We have 5 children's hospitals in the United States telling girls that they can be boys at $70,000 a pop in a surgery that has a 67% complication rate. That will kill me from infection that I can't sue on. We're butchering a generation of children because nobody's willing to talk about anything. I have 3 kids. At the age that they're doing this to kids, I'm not transphobic. I love my kids, and I love other people's kids, and you should too. This is wrong on so many levels.
That $70,000, and what they're doing is the medical community is creating a revenue stream for themselves, because these gender mutilization surgeries are going to kill a lot of people and create all kinds of health issues and more money for the medical community. This is coming from a man that this happened to, a woman that this happened to, and you're going to see a lot more of these people coming out and just devastated by what they've done to themselves. And this is going to create suicides and all kinds of problems down the road. Now, that, unfortunately, again, one more real graphic video for you. There's a student, KNOX Zabak, 11-year-old student, and his dad in Maine, that confronted the school board over a book that was actually at the front of the library in this middle school, and also his high schooler. Again, graphic, but this is fine for our children. And if we don't know what's going on in these schools and what our kids are being exposed to on a daily basis, how can we fight this war? So let's listen to this.
I'm a 6th grader. I was in the library, and this book was on a stand. I'd like to read you a page. He's undoing my belt. I'm reaching into his bedside drawer for a condom. We're kissing. Again, we're rolling over. Obviously, you can see where this is going. This reminds me so much of the first time we had sex. We were both terrified, and the whole thing was kind of terrible because we didn't know what we were doing. But it was good too, so good.
If hearing an 11-year-old read that makes you uncomfortable, well, that is the point. The book you just heard KNOX Zajac read from is available at Wyndham Middle School in Maine. And we wouldn't have known about it if he didn't have such a close relationship with his dad. Well, he checked that book out to show his father, then made the brave decision to stand up to the school board. Joining me now is that boy, KNOX Zajac, and his father, Adam. KNOX, first of all, I know you have a snow day tomorrow, but what did the librarian say to you when you checked that book out?
So I rented the book out, and the librarian actually offered me more graphic novels, saying that she'd a lot more of these types of books. Then after that, I told her I was going to tell my dad, and her face was bright red, and she started stuttering, and she couldn't reply for a good 5 seconds.
Okay, Adam. Now, this didn't just start with KNOX, right? You have an older son who found perhaps even worse content in his high school. I mean, obviously those are older kids, but what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that book was genderqueer. My son actually checked that out of the high school library and brought it home, and I looked through it, and extremely graphic content, sexually explicit content of, well, there was graphic content of 2 boys.
So when my kids were in school, there was a book called Heather Has 2 Mommies, I believe, if I remember that correctly. You know, that was one of the most upsetting things to my husband and I was that books like that were on the shelf. And we cautioned our kids about books like that. But we have gone so far. And that was a book, too, that was usually hidden. You know, you had to look for it, search for it, and it wasn't pushed on our kids. These librarians are offering just graphic sexual exposure to our kids in the schools now. It's just repulsive. I'm a big fan of books, good books. It's our turn now. Mario Murillo is one of my favorite authors, and I want to read you a little bit from him. He says, the war on children will drive souls to Jesus in America. This is some good news. The lies these kids are being told are not sustainable. It's wearing thin on a generation growing skeptical of the constant drip of despair. He says, your movement is not noble. It's no advancement of justice or truth. It's a dredge of society rising from intellectual manholes. You can't hide the stench. You can't hide your predatory eyes. There's nothing decent about what you want to put on children. Your uncleanness is deeper than words. Even your light is darkness. Soldier of Christ, hear me out. Now that parents see what wokeness does to children, they will yearn for the truth. They will want to be right with God just to protect their children. Malachi 4:5-6 says, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he will turn your hearts of the father to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the earth with a curse. Because of children, hearts are turning. Because of children, tears will return to eyes long dry and hearts hardened from sin. A thirst for innocence and sudden nausea over wickedness will soon send them to be saved, all because of their children. An hour such as America has never seen will come because we finally realize they do not want to help our children. They want to disfigure them. Parents will no longer want to take children to events that sexualize them and steal their childhood. Parents will no longer let them become trophies of Satan's dark and evil plan. Where then will they take them? Matthew 19:14. But Jesus said, let the little children come to me and do not forbid them, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. So we're going to shift to some good news and some wins. I'm not here to discourage you. I'm here to offer hope and encouragement. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. The evil leaders of woke philosophy are setting the stage for the next wave of conversions. Let's see a little bit more here. Despair drove her to reach out to God. The evil leaders of woke philosophy are setting the stage for the next wave of conversion. Youth are going from woke to awake, and those ready for harvesting are all ripening at the same time. I told you that the misery of woke is ripening vast fields of human souls. Christianity has always been a youth movement. Many of the great American revivals have started on campuses. The Jesus movement was powerful and widespread for one reason. It was young people. When our youth get hold of the gospel, it will create a holy peer pressure. Satan will see their youthful energy combined with the fire of the Holy Spirit as a lethal combination. I conclude that even though our youth generation is in the throes of great deception and looks utterly lost and disinterested in Christ, there's a great spiritual upheaval within them. That upheaval will be seized by Christ. He will draw them to himself in vast numbers. We are about to witness the fulfillment of a prophecy given many centuries ago by the prophet Joel and quoted by Peter on the day of Pentecost. And it shall come to pass in the last days, says God, that I will pour out of my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your young men shall see visions. And that's from Acts 2. We are going to start, Sam, we're seeing it. What are we seeing in Asbury right now? We're seeing major revivals happening all over the country right now. Let's look at the Asbury revival. It's not over. That Asbury revival is still happening. They say that they've moved it to a church, they've moved it out of the school, but that's what had to happen with revival. Revival has to move out into the streets. Revival has to become reformation. And we're seeing this. We're seeing our kids that are so tired of having this sexual perversion and this filth and disgust thrown on them, and we're seeing them crave for something. They want truth, and they're finding it. They're finding it in God. I want to read to you from, well, no, I'm not going to read to you right now. I want to tell you a little story. Our pastor Ken in Valencia, they have a little boy, Judah, and he's nonverbal. And they posted the sweetest video of him this week. He's nonverbal, but he knows music, and he knows the words of music. And he sang, I believe, several verses of a song on this video and knew the words, and he's got a beautiful voice. And I said to Valencia in church on Sunday that I truly believe that God is using children in big ways right now. And Pastor Sharam on his Sunday sermon this week he preached on King Josiah. Now, I did not know a lot of the facts about King Josiah. King Josiah was 8 years old when he was made king of Judah. He was the youngest king. He was the son of King Amon, who was an ungodly king, and the grandson of Manasseh, one of the kings blamed for turning away from the worship of Yahweh. Manasseh adapted a temple for idolatrous worship. Josiah was a good king who loved the Lord. He wanted to help his people, the Israelites, obey the Lord and stop worshiping idols. When he was older, he and his people started to repair the temple and make it beautiful again. In 2 Kings 23:10, Josiah ends Moloch worship, which was abortion. In 2 Kings 23:13, Josiah ends the places of sexual immorality. And in Josiah 23:24, Josiah ends any false spirituality. Now, I need to brag a little bit on my Pastor Ken and Pastor Sharam. There's a quote by Dietrich Bonhoeffer that says, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." Now, if you don't know who Dietrich Bonhoeffer is and you've not read Bonhoeffer, I highly recommend you get a hold of that book. Anybody that knows anything about Nazi Germany and Hitler, you'll learn who Bonhoeffer is if you'll just study up on that and read his book by Eric Metaxas. I want to read a little bit about what the church and our pastors should be doing. It says, "I keep politics out of the pulpit. I'm going to write about the 5 devastating things an excuse like that will do to your ministry. We've spent so much time talking about the hazards of speaking out that we've not realized the disasters of remaining silent. Be warned, the middle ground is going to disappear, and soon. It's wrong to keep politics out of the pulpit for the simple reason that it's no longer about politics, it's about evil. I believe there's only 2 reasons that the subject of politics is being kept out of the pulpit. Preachers do not believe tyranny is about to destroy our freedom, or they are so controlled by fear that they are in denial that it is tyranny. When Christian moms go to school board meetings to confront child porn in the classroom, they look around and wonder, where's my pastor? In the Great Global Reset, the state will hand you your sermon notes. In short term, if you remain silent, they will let you keep woke members, but in the long term, you can lose everything. Denial will keep you from facing that wokeness, and Christianity cannot mix. Wokeness and the Democratic Party no longer just support abortion, they celebrate it. They no longer advocate for transgender rights, they're trying to destroy anyone who disagrees with their sexual mandates. They no longer just disagree with the Bible and Christianity, they seek to eradicate both. Wokeness hates everything a Christian stands for. If woke Christians in your church do not realize that they cannot be woke and Christian, that's a reflection on your preaching. You should be more concerned about their souls than their membership. You may have held on to them physically, but they've already left the church spiritually. Worst of all, they do not know that the empty shell of Christianity that they cling to will not save them. I can't say that about my pastors because our pastors preach the truth, and we do combine politics with church in our church. And I really am so grateful for the pastors that I have. In fact, it's funny, I do all my notes and my outlines for my shows on Mondays. So my show was completely finished on Monday this week. Well, interestingly enough, about an hour before I came here, Pastor Ken posted this on his page. Obligations of the church based on Bonhoeffer's book, The Church and the Jewish Question. Number 1, the church must be the conscience of the state and must call it to account. It must object loudly. It must not remain silent when sins are being promoted and enacted by the state. Number 2, the church must help any victim of the state's injustice. Examples, today's unborn, the Jews in Hitler's day, and slavery in early America. Number 3, if the state refuses to change course, the church must take action politically and shove a stick in the spokes of the wheel of the rumbling machine of the state. Now, Pastor Ken did not see my show notes, and I had no idea he was going to post that, but I think we kind of shared a brain today. I think that was pretty cool that Ken posted the exact same thing that I'm talking about with my pastors right now. So I like to end shows with wins, because I'm not here to discourage. I'm not here to depress everyone. I'm here to light a fire under everyone so that you get involved in trying to save our kids from the war that's attacking them. Tennessee passed a law restricting drag shows in public spaces. Governor Lee signed this several weeks ago, and what that means is, will there be a gay pride parade in downtown Knoxville like has happened for the past however many years? I don't think so. You cannot perform drag in a public place where there are children anymore in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee outlaws gender mutilation of children. Governor Lee also signed this a few weeks ago. You can no longer mutilate and change the gender of a child in the state of Tennessee. Now, will there be pushback at those laws like there is with the abortion laws that we're fighting right now? Sure. They're going to come back at us. And that's why you need to watch shows like this one and as many things as you can fill your brain with so that you know how to take action and you know how to fight these things that they're doing. We are making progress keeping abortion illegal in Tennessee. Something kind of cool that happened. There's a little chocolate bar issue that happened this week. Jeremy Boring, who is the co-CEO of the Daily Wire, he created a chocolate bar this week. And let me tell you what, let's see, I have some things here from Ben Shapiro. It was a massive weekend here at the Daily Wire. Why? Well, we launched Jeremy's Chocolate on Thursday. How could we not, after Hershey's launched their Hershey campaign to celebrate International Women's Day with a biological man as their spokesperson? Yes, they made a woke mistake. We're trying to show companies like Hershey's, go woke, go broke. Many people thought we planned it in advance. Before we launched Jeremy's Chocolate less than 24 hours after their ad, how could we do such a thing so fast? So to give you the actual inside story, let me give you the timeline of events. It started Wednesday, March 2nd, when Jeremy sent the team an email with a tweet about Hershey's Hershey campaign at 8:30 a.m. There was a 50-minute phone call to discuss a plan of action. We had an idea that we should call our bars he, him, and she, her, with the important note that only one would have nuts. By 2 p.m., we were launching a chocolate company. 3 days later, we've already sold over 400,000 chocolate bars. That's roughly 17 tons of chocolate. And yesterday, by the way, that hit over 500,000. So that's kind of a cool win, right? The Jesus Revolution has made over $30 million at the box office since its opening. Now, a lot of what I've been talking about today may sound hateful. We don't hate the gay community. We don't hate transgenders. We don't hate abortionists. We love them. We pray for them. And we want them to find Jesus. But we do need to make everyone aware of what's going on, and we do have to stand for our biblical values, and we need to stand up for our children and our grandchildren. I want to put a picture up, a very sweet picture of our friend Joseph Z and his wife Heather. I want to read you a post from them this week. You'll see them there with their hands on this man. to prove to you that we don't hate these people, Heather and I prayed for a young man today who has HIV and had recently been beat up by his husband. When we first saw him, he was acting strange, like he was going to try and steal our vehicle. So I approached him and started talking. Found out he got out of jail a few days ago due to auto theft. When we offered to connect him to a church that would help, he made a point to say that churches were just out to get people's money, etc. He was shocked when we gave him some resources and told him we were ministers. He was then very open to receive prayer and let us love on him. We believe it was a God encounter to bring some light and hope into his path. Makes me think about how much Jesus loves us all. This is what the church's responsibility is. This is what people think about churches. They think that we hate them and that we don't love them and that we just want their money and we just want them to be in the churches. No, we want them there so that we can love on them and help them. I'm going to end with this Bible verse, Matthew 19:14. Let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. When Jesus said, suffer little children and forbid them not to come unto me, he was reaching out to a segment of society that was thought to be insignificant. Children in their weakness and vulnerability have much to teach us as adults. As dark as this war is on our kids, we need to be on our knees. We need to fight this battle first and foremost on our knees. And we need to do this for our kids and our grandkids. They're the most important thing. This is our future. These kids need us to fight for them. So, thank you so much for joining me today. I welcome you to tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are called to stay busy and occupy until he comes. I'll be here every week to inform, encourage, and ignite in the spirit of faith. I'm Janet Palombi. See you next time on Patriot TV.